Hello out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man. As always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel, and I appreciate the ongoing comments, and I welcome the new subscribers. Today I'm going to do a video, and it's entitled The Review of the Fender Squier JAZZ Bass. And then I'm going to touch on some other basses too, and kind of give some tips to the new bass players, because I've gotten a lot of comments or requests for, you do a lot of stuff for the guitar players and show them how to play, so what do you have for us new up and coming bass players? So I'm going to attempt to address that comment, because I look at myself more so of a rhythm guitar player than anything, even though I actually first started playing bass first. But the review on the Fender Squier JAZZ Bass, I love it. The first time I played a Fender bass, jazz bass, was like in probably about 83. I was with a band called Polo, and I was the rhythm guitar player. And during one of our shows, we were sitting in the lobby waiting to go on. And me and the bass player was sitting in the lobby, and he had his bass. So I asked him, can I see it? So he gave it to me. And at the time, I was kind of into Louis Johnson stuff, so I'm thumping and doing all that. People started forming around, kind of watching, and then he took his bass away. And I didn't realize that he felt that I was trying to upstage him, which I wasn't. I just love to play, So that was my first introduction to the jazz bass. And I really haven't played one since. I've been playing mainly a Fender Precision. But I decided to kind of broaden my horizons and add the Fender jazz bass to my collection. And I was quite pleased, because when I bought this bass, I actually had two other basses. And when I got this one, within a week, I sold the other bass because it was no longer needed. And I was also considering selling my old LP, but I'm going to keep it because I love it. The action on it is unbelievable, and it's a beautiful guitar. But actually, Fender Jazz Bass can do everything that these other basses can do, and that's why I enjoy playing it these days, because I look at it as the Telecaster of the bass group in the Fender clan. And the reason why I say that is with my Telecaster, I can play and get all types of tones. So that's why I usually play that one almost exclusively. And now I'm kind of leaning in the same direction with the Fender Squier JAZZ Bass. I mean, I can get all types of tones. And one thing that I noticed about it is it has a very thin neck at the top, which is kind of unusual, because normally your guitar is kind of big and then it kind of slims down, then it kind of gets somewhere in the middle range. And usually when you play your guitar or bass, you're most comfortable in the mid range because you're not cramping your hands as bad. But when you're up here, it's like it's torture. And then when you're down here, it's kind of like it's torture. So you're kind of comfortable here. But with the jazz bass and the neck, again, is thin up here, you can play comfortably throughout the entire neck. So I love that about this. And this is the only bass that I've ran across that has that smaller neck up here, and then, it's not too bad down here neither. So it's a beautiful guitar. It sounds good. You can get all types of tones, because here's the thing with certain things as far as bass to me that no one ever told me, and I just kind of start to figure out on my own, is one, if you decide to be a bass player, you ask yourself, well, what kind of bass player do I want to be? Now, if you want to be like the Marcus Miller, where, you're doing a whole lot of that, you ask yourself, well, what kind of guitar did I need to kind of get that bright tone? And I would definitely say that the jazz bass is the perfect candidate, because you can get that real treble-ish high-end tone. And with the precision bass, you kind of have to keep brand new strings on it to get that bright tone, but then those strings kind of go flat within about a week and they lose their brightness. So it's like you feel like you thumping lumber, and that's the term I use, thumping lumber. It sounds real heavy. There's no treble-ish in the mix at all. But again, if you're one of those bass players that say, hey, I want to kind of do a lot of slap things, slap bass techniques, this is definitely the guitar for you. And most basses, it's hard to kind of get that bright tone and that slap. It's kind of like you either adjust your guitar to get that bright tone, which again lasts about a week before the strings go dull on you, but then you can't really play nothing else to give you bottom. And with the jazz precision bass, you can get both tones, because I always used to wonder when I hear a lot of gospel guys playing, they finger it, then they thump it. and they get that bright tone as well as that bottom. And this guitar delivers that. So if you're looking for that style of playing, this is definitely the guitar to pick up. I highly recommend it. I think it's actually designed to do just that, to do both of them. And I can't really say enough about this guitar. You know, I'm not going to get into the wood because I'm not a wood expert. I'm not an electronics expert. All I can say is from a player standpoint, it feels and it sounds good. Because I know a lot of people get into this issue about depending on the wood and electronics, that's a bunch of bull. Wood is wood. You know, it varies, but it doesn't really affect the tonality of an electric guitar. And I know a lot of people gonna give me some comments about that, but it's true. The only time that wood plays a big difference in the sound is when you're playing acoustic guitar and the sound is emulating through the hole. But as far as the pickups, got nothing to do with the wood, and it has no really effect on the tone of the guitar. So, you know, I'm saying this to the beginners because I don't want you guys to get corrupt into believing some stuff that us older guys have been corrupt into believing. We refuse to not believe it at this point. And here's another myth. And I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but I tell it like it is. The Squier, which is, it's a Squier, it's not an American-made guitar. A lot of people think that there's a big difference, and the only difference is a $400 price tag. So unless you want to spend an extra $400 to make someone else more financially secure, it's really a waste of money. Because the reason why the quote-unquote Fender guitars cost more than the Squiers is real simple. The Fender guitars are made in America. The other ones are made in Indonesia, China, Mexico, and a few other countries. And the reason why there's a huge price difference is it's real simple. The people in America make a much better living than the people in Indonesia. So the people that perhaps make these guitars might maybe make about $25 an hour versus the guy in Indonesia who makes maybe $2 an hour. So that's really the big difference in the price. Got nothing to do with this one's much better or it's a different guitar because they have the exact same electronic specifications. Now the wood tends to vary because you're in a different country, so they use their lumber. But other than that, it's basically the same guitar. So I want to express that to the new guitar players because the older guys kind of stuck in that mindset that that's not true. You know, it's a whole big difference between the American made and Indonesia, which is really isn't. But, you know, not going to get into that argument. But I thought it was important for me to share that with the new beginners. And as far as tips that I would give the new beginners is this. First of all, determine what kind of guitar bass player you want to be. You want to be just a traditional guy or a little bit of this and a little bit of this. You know, you might want to go with this because this one is designed to do a lot of slap bass techniques. I basically started as a bass player and I went through the traditional way of learning, but I kind of got bored. I'm like one note at a time and my fingers are kind of hurting because these are big strings. So I went to play drums and I played drums for a while. Then I kind of abandoned those because they were too noisy. So then I went to guitar and felt comfortable there and I stayed there. And throughout that time I picked up a little piano skills. But that's the question as a beginner, what kind of bass player you want to be will determine the kind of bass that you need to play. Because like not with the lead guitar, bass is a little different to me. It's hard to get a good bass tone versus just pulling out your guitar and just, you know, playing, because a lot of times you don't have to do too much tweaking on your guitar. For piano players, they're lucky. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to worry about tuning their piano or, you know, it's kind of sounding flat. So they're good to go out the box. But bass players, to me, and drummers need to be very conscious of their sound because it's hard to get a good drum sound. You know, most drummers, they kids sound like they're beating on pans, and they don't realize it. Same thing with bass. Got these super heavy gauge strings, and the action is way up here, and you're wondering why you don't sound like Louis Johnson, or your fingers are blistering up after playing for 2 days. And that's another thing that unfortunately people don't share with you. And I kind of figured it out. I first started playing bass and I'm like, after 2 days, my fingers are swollen, they sore, they got blisters. And I asked some guys that play for a living, they said, well, you're just not playing enough. I'm like, okay, so I play longer and more. My fingers got more swollen, more blisters. I'm like, that's not the answer. And here is the answer. Like with guitar strings, they come in different gauges. And I found the lightest gauges that I could find, and I put on this guitar, and I did some slight modifications as far as straightening out the neck, which I'm not, a repair guy, but I figured I can do it. So I straightened out the neck. I changed the strings to a light gauge strings. I lowered the action down here, and then I adjusted the neck. So I got it down where it's kind of comfortable, it's pretty comfortable, and it's not buzzing. Because most of us do not want to play guitars with super high actions. They just don't. It's uncomfortable to play, and when you don't feel good when you're playing, you don't play well. When you're uncomfortable, you don't play well. It's like when you're sleeping in the bed that's not yours, you're not comfortable. It's like when you're sleeping in your own bed and you can't get a good night's sleep. It's kind of the same concept to me. So I changed the strings, lighter, super light gauge, and now I can play as long as I want. My fingers are not swelling and blistering up. And let me see if there's any other things that I need to share with you guys. Yeah, when you are trying to get perhaps that James Jamerson tone, and James used to do that. Take some stylophone, put it down here. It kind of muffles the strings and keep them from ringing out. And what I do also, this is from a studio musician trick. You see this stylophone here, and I taped it. And the reason why I did that because the bass guitar is heavy. It has a tendency to start sliding when you're playing, and that's not a good thing. So I taped up the stylophone here to keep it from moving. So when I'm playing, it's secure and I'm just doing my thing. Here is an important question that I've gotten from a lot of young bass players over the years. And it's this. They ask me, what do you think of the 5, 6, 7, 8 string basses? And us guitar players, we kind of have an ongoing joke or riddle. And it goes like this. What do you call a bass player, a 5-string bass player? A guitar player. Because as when the additional string bass guitars came out, my stance was this. I'm struggling with 4 strings. I don't want any more. So I'm not going there, And, over the years, I've basically just been a traditional 4-string bass player because I'm a traditional bass player. I mean, to each his own, and I'm not knocking the guys that want additional 5, 6 strings and they fretboard look like this, I want my fretboard like this so I can play comfortably. But, the more strings you add to bass, that fretboard get like this. And I'm like, I'm not trying to go there. But again, to each his own. But I look at it like this, and I know things change. Bass, to me, when I started playing bass, my job was to hold down the foundation, to play a pattern or some scales, and perhaps every now and then solo a little bit. That was it. But now you got bass players, they guitar players. They're playing chords on the bass, and they doing melodies. And I asked myself, well, if you're doing all this, who's holding down the bass, the pattern? So I won't say that I'm not a fan of that or knocking it. I just say that I'm a traditional bass player. I love 4 strings. I don't want any more, And I've had people ask me that question, what do you think of 7-string basses and 8 strings? And like I told them, I'm a traditional bass player. I play old traditional stuff, so I really don't feel the need to add an additional string to my bass because, again, I don't want a fretboard that big. But, there's some people that they enjoy doing that, and, to each his own. But I thought I would comment on that because I've had people ask me throughout the years, why haven't you played a 5-string, or what do you think of it? And that's what I think of it, that you kind of get into the guitar player's territory when you want to play chords on your bass and play the melody on your bass. So, But on that note, I'm going to sign off, and I hope that this video has been helpful to the bass players, and I might do another one because just didn't have enough time to expand on how to get started playing bass. So I hope that this is enough for now, and I don't want to make a 30-minute video. I try to keep them short, and I probably will make another one where I just concentrate on the beginning, starting to play bass, and start to move on to become an intermediate guitar player, bass player, and an advanced bass player. So hopefully this will hold you until then. Until next time, as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel.